Hi, thank you for tuning into the weekly video email. This week we are reading Parashat Lech Lecha, and in this Parasha, Abram begins his journey toward becoming Abraham and then eventually toward becoming how we know him as the father of the Jewish people. But last week's Parasha, the end of chapter 11 of Genesis, specifically verse 27, is where Abram is born. And then Abram's father, Terach, takes Abram as well as Lot, and they leave Ur, where they were born, and they go to Haran. They're headed towards Canaan, but they go to Haran. Then that's the end of chapter 11. At the very beginning of chapter 12, we get that command from God saying to Abram, go forth and leave everything you know that is familiar and go to this land that I'm going to show you. In between these stories is a very famous story that answers the question, why Abram? Why was Abram such a big deal that God would tap him on the shoulder, so to speak, and say, go, I want you to begin this people? So in between chapter 11 and chapter 12, the rabbis shoehorn in a midrash, a story that explains the answer to this question, why Abram? Abram was minding his father Terach's idol shop. Terach was a famous creator and purveyor of idols in the land of Ur and eventually Haran. And Terach went out and Abram was put in charge of the shop. And this elderly man comes up and says, I want you to give this money to the gods. And he says, why would I do that? He says, you see this God? This was made yesterday. And you're what, 100 years old? So there's no way that you, with all of your experience, should be praying to this one-day old piece of wood. So the man walks away. And this woman comes up with a basket of bread and she says, I'm leaving this for the gods. Thank you. Goodbye. And he turns around. He doesn't know what to do because here he is left with this bread that's for these idols that he doesn't believe in. So he takes the bread and he puts it in front of this huge idol. And then he takes a hammer and he smashes all the idols in the shop except for the one in front of the bread. And then he puts the hammer in that idol's hand. Well, of course, Terach comes home and says, what's this mess? This is ridiculous. And Abram says, look, this woman came to offer bread, and the big god took the hammer and beat up all the little gods and stole the bread. And Terach said, what do you mean? How could that have happened? These are idols. They're inanimate objects. This couldn't have happened. And Abram said, if you knew that, you should not be selling them to these people because they're not worthy of their prayers. Only the one true God is worthy of their prayers. Pretty good reason that the rabbis came up with that God would tap Abram on the shoulder. And we need to think about the things that we do as well that are bucking the system, so to speak. We have rules and regulations and certain ways to behave in our society. And I'm not by any means suggesting that you break the law, but there are times when there are ways to behave, things people do, things we understand as a people. And I think we should look at these things. And if it works, if it's perfect, great, don't change it. But if it doesn't seem right, if there's something wrong with the way we behave as a society, smash the idols. Take that hammer, and you don't have to blame the bigger idol. You can take the responsibility yourself and get rid of all of those old ways of thinking that we know are just not right. And like that, we can together be like Abram and be worthy of becoming Abraham and becoming the ancestors of a future generation of wise and system bucking people. So have a great week. Enjoy Shabbat and anything that you are up to this weekend. I'm very excited because I'm going to a concert, and if you know me, you know which one I'm going to. Have a great week.